Well, hello everybody. I'm meteorologist Jonathon Erdman,
And I am meteorologist Tim Ballisty.
and welcome to Weather.com's video briefing of an upcoming storm for the Northeast. Now, this storm is going to be a little different, Tim, right?
A little bit different. Welcome to the month of March. We can say farewell to some of those major snowstorms that have impacted the Northeast over the months of December, January, February. And welcome to the month of March, where we have a major storm, but this time it's a major rainstorm.
Yeah, no shoveling this time, but unfortunately there could be some pretty significant impacts. So we're going to start by looking at the current snowpack in the Northeast. Yes, there is still snowpack. Fortunately, there's no snowpack left in Baltimore, D.C., or Philly. That's all gone. But there are some areas in upstate New York and Pennsylvania and West Virginia still have some significant snow on the ground.
It's been accumulating through the months. It's still lying there. And when we get into the warmer months, as always, we welcome the idea of the snow melts. And it's coming, and it's going to be happening a good bit with this upcoming storm.
So we still have some areas that still have 20 inches or more of snow in the mountains of West Virginia and Pennsylvania. Some areas in the Catskills still have over 10 inches. And that's melting quickly because as we tape this, some temperatures are already in the upper 60s in parts of Pennsylvania, including Latrobe, PA. So, my goodness. So that is the first ingredient. We're melting snow. Now we bring in the storm.
The storm. And here we go. Let's move on into the computer model itself.
Now, what Tim has shown here, he has a forecast model. This is one of the models that a meteorologist will look at to digest what's going to happen in the weather. And now, we're still a few days away, so the details are still somewhat in question. But this gives you a general idea of the timeline of this big storm. So we're starting out on Friday, right, Tim?
Yep, going with a widescreen view so you all at home can take a better look at this. And we start out at Friday afternoon. This is what the model prints out in terms of precipitation Friday afternoon. And I'm going to move ahead in time and show you just where the heaviest rain starts to set up shop. But let's talk about real quick that moisture fetch.
Yeah, and what you're seeing here in the model, the greens are accumulated precipitation, so rainfall. Mm-hmm. So as we step through time, this is the rain that has fallen every 12 hours. And so we're starting with Friday, and already we see some decent rain, and that fetch of moisture is coming all the way from the tropics, from down near Grand Cayman Island. It's getting swept up into Florida and then back into the Northeast. So when you have slow-moving storms with a tropical fetch of moisture, you're just asking for flooding.
Absolutely. And before we move on, I did want to let everybody, give people a little bit of perspective on this map. Here is the state of Florida. Here is that East Coast, from the southeast coast all the way up to the northeast coast. And we're going to start really honing in on this area right here of the northeast. And that's where you're going to see that fetch of moisture really start to devour that part of the country.
Yeah, so potentially on Friday, the significant rain is already starting to hammer parts of the mid-Atlantic states. And then we go Friday night into Saturday, and it goes downhill in a hurry with potential heavy rain, again, wrapping around that tropical fetch back into much of the northeast corridor, certainly the mid-Atlantic states, and then back in upstate New York, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, Tim.
So the rain is pouring, it's coming down in buckets, and then you have another aspect of the storm, which we're going to touch a little bit more in depth later on, but I'll touch it on right now, and that's the area of low pressure here. And we let me move the map a little bit over here, and we'll see this high pressure up in the Canadian Maritimes. So we have low pressure, butted up against high pressure, we have a sharp pressure gradient. These lines are really, which are isobars, they're squeezed right next to each other, and when they're right next to each other, we have a really strong pressure gradient, and that means winds are on the increase, and they are roaring off the Atlantic.
And absolutely. So we're talking about the winds, we're talking about the heavy rain, so that looks like Saturday is really the day of concern right now for much of the Northeast. Then when we go into Sunday, you notice the axis of heavy rain starts to shift to the north, heads up into New England, so places like Boston, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, possibly as far north as Portland, Maine, and then wrapping back into upstate New York and the Adirondacks back toward the Tug Hill Plateau. That could be a band of heavy, significant rainfall as well. In some of those areas we know in New Hampshire, they're saturated. They don't want any more of this.
So we show you the model, we show you sort of the progression of the rain, but how much rain falls during that time period, from that Friday afternoon through the Sunday time period. Let's zoom on in and give everybody at home a better look. I'm zooming in really tight here, going into Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York, and the Delmarva area, and you can see what we're looking at here.
Yeah, the first we should show you what the shades mean. The first shade of green that you see there is at least an inch of rain total throughout this event.
That's that light shade right here.
Which is a significant amount. Now the next shades of green go up by an inch. So the next shade of green here, that's 2 inches. And then the darkest shade of green we have is 3 inches plus, and the bluer shades show the potential of 4 or more inches of rain from this storm, and that includes parts of the I-95 corridor, Tim.
Yep, let's just
Ugh.
real quick showing some of that legend here, showing what those colors mean and the inches, and let's rotate back on
Go
over
back
here.
in there.
And there we go. Yeah, so we talked about the ingredients. We have the snowpack in place. We have the already very saturated grounds, and now we add a really deep tropical fetch of moisture of rainfall amounts of 2 to 5 inches, and that's what's going to be setting up this flooding problem
Absolutely.
this weekend.
So this begins Friday in parts of the Mid-Atlantic, and then through Saturday moves to the north, and then by Sunday it's up in New England. So again, that's an incredible amount of rain. So to recap, we've got a recap graphic here.
Recap graphic. Let's take it in. Let me zoom out a little bit more so everybody can see at home. Oops. There we go. The weekend flood that we got the storm track. We have the storm system in the south that's going to move out of the southeastern states, move up the mid-Atlantic coast, really start to intensify on that Friday night through Saturday time period. That's when not only the rain will start to pour on in, but also the winds will be on the increase as well. So how much rainfall? We're looking at 2 to 5 inches for this very wide swath of area from Virginia all the way up to parts of New England. And yeah, we do see flooding possible, but guess what? It's going to be more than likely that we're going to be seeing flooding this weekend and into early next week.
Yeah, we already have flood watches out now. In fact, if you go to weather.com, you go to the alerts page, you can look at the current flood watches and flood warnings on here. And what Tim is showing, we already have flood watches out for parts of western Pennsylvania, including the Pittsburgh metro area, east central Ohio, back into West Virginia, and the Panhandle of Maryland, Garrett County, it looks like. So, the first things that flood are typically the small streams and creeks. They're more flashy. They'll react quicker. But then after that, then you start to accumulate water in the main stem rivers like the Ohio River, the Monongahela River, potentially the Susquehanna, and perhaps even your stomping grounds.
Yeah, the stomping grounds back in southeastern Pennsylvania. We're talking about the Delaware River. The Delaware River is very prone to flooding, especially as you get into where southeastern Pennsylvania meets South Jersey, and that's where again when you get into the months of March and April, generally flooding is almost a guarantee, and it looks like it may be setting up shop this weekend.
So if you live near a small creek or stream or river, boy, you got to keep an eye on it starting Friday through the weekend. Now there's another problem, Tim. With
One more problem. We touched on it. Let's get in a little bit more in depth. I'm going to zoom on out on this graphic so I can give you a wider scope of the area. What are we looking at? This, by the way, is from rightweather.com.
Yeah, this is forecast wind speeds, and unfortunately, you can't get a storm in the Northeast this time of year that stalls out without winds. So we're starting with Friday, and the red shades that you see there are at least 20 mile per hour sustained winds, 20 to 30, and you watch that core of strong winds move up the Delmarva Peninsula into the Jersey Shore, Long Island, southern New England coast. And then you see some purple shadings coming, which are over 30 miles per hour.
There comes the purples and the blue. I mean, we're moving through Saturday. The winds are roaring off the Atlantic, these easterlies just crushing into the coast of the Delmarva Peninsula coastline, the New Jersey coastline, the Long Island. Let's even go further in time, and this low really starts to crank Saturday night. And wow,
oh, look at that! Oh my goodness! Now that's Saturday night. And now you're looking at widespread 30 to 40 mile per hour sustained winds along the Jersey Shore, possibly southern New England, with higher gusts. Those are the sustained winds. Those have gusts 50 to 60 miles per hour possible in these areas. So then the concerns become power outages, power lines down, tree limbs down, trees down because of saturated ground. They're easier to down in this case. And you can get, if they last long enough, you can get some at least minor to moderate coastal flooding, maybe some minor beach erosion as well. Certainly from the Delmarva and Jersey Shore northward. So,
and as the low moves, it begins to weaken as we head into the day on Sunday, but that pressure gradient will still be fairly fierce throughout coastal New England. And I'm going to zoom right back out and get an idea. Again, there we go.
So Sunday is more of New England's day, if you will.
Yes. Saturday, more of a mid-Atlantic, the Delmarva Peninsula. I'm talking about the coastlines of Maryland, Virginia, and Delaware, and also New Jersey and Long Island. And then as we move into Sunday, more of the coastal New England. That's when you guys are in the target zone for the high winds and the very heavy rain.
Well, that seems to wrap it up. So check back with weather.com. We'll be updating this story all the way through the week. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well.
Absolutely, we'll be constantly following this storm through the lifespan as we head in through the weekend. So keep on top. We'll keep on top of the situation, and we'll give you all the updates that we can going forward. All right, everybody. Thanks so
everybody.
much. We'll
Take
see you
care.
later. Bye-bye.